Warning: the following content may contain elements that are not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
No, I was scared and I was like, oh, and so they ended up telling me like we gotta proceed with surgery, you're losing blood. And so I got to see my surgery. Like the surgeons were like smiling because they're like I asked them like what's so funny? And they're like, we've never had any patients conscience during their surgery.
Wow. All right. Well, welcome back to Win the Night podcast. I do have a special guest coming in for the first time on video. Please introduce yourself. You're a longtime friend and from school, from elementary, middle school, and high school. Let's go. Introduce
So,
yourself.
hi, my name is Daniel Pinto. I am currently in Mexico right now. I was in Cali for a bit, and yeah, went to OFHS.
Yes,
Go
sir.
Bengals!
Go Bengals.
Yeah,
Sweet,
yeah,
man. Well, thanks for jumping on. I really appreciate you, especially being in Mexico, right?
yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking that time. Now, I do want to kind of go back a little bit before we dive into any details. We we know each other from high school, like well from high school, but we go back a little further than that.
Mhm.
I want to say, did you go to? You didn't go to Kirkshire, did you?
I did.
You did go to Kirkshire. Okay, so all the way from elementary then. Now,
Yeah.
did you always grow up in Oak Forest or in the area, or did you move around before then?
I mean, technically, I'm from Posen, and
Posen. Okay.
yeah, I mean, we moved to Midlothian
Right.
like when I was I don't know, like a couple years old, and then so we were there in Midlothian. I went to Foster for like
Mm-hmm.
I think that was when they were changing the school districts and everything.
Right.
So I went to Foster for like I want to say like half a year, and then I
Mm.
ended up going to Hilly, Jack Hilly.
Jack Hilly. Yeah, that's where I think that's where we met back up because I remember you in middle school, but I didn't really remember you all that much in elementary. What was it like for you growing up? Did you were you a type of kid that were you outgoing as a kid or how what was it like growing up for you?
Nah, man, I was pretty overweight back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, and like I used to get bullied a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I didn't really make that many friends until maybe middle school, but I was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the fat kid that would crack jokes, you know?
Yeah.
That's like the only thing I had for me, just trying to crack jokes and that's it, yeah. Yeah.
And what was it? Because I remember when you did like the P90X, like the training where you lost a ton of weight. Uh,
Yeah.
what led you? Obviously, you said that you got bullied a lot, but like, what was it that was there like a final thing that happened where you're like, you know what, I need to do something? Like, what happened?
It was interesting. I mean, it was I think it was like 8th grade. That was like my most obese moments. I
Mm,
was like 220 pounds. I was like 5'2". I was like super round, it was I just like to eat a lot. I think it was like stress eating
mm,
and I would just I don't know, I would get bullied a lot, and then sometimes like at my home life, me and my dad didn't get along that well.
mm,
And so that like led me to like just eat more and just not care.
mm,
And then
mm,
I believe it was the what was it? I think it was during winter of 8th grade
mm,
at Hilly. Um, my my mom caught me like, drinking a little bit and
mm.
smoking a little bit, just like cigarettes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting grounded the whole summer.
Mm,
Um, so I didn't basically I was like, all right, what do I do? And my mom, she was like always, super huge in my life and she would always try to help me out. And she was like, look, you can't do anything, you can't go out, you can't see your friends, blah, blah, blah. But if you want, we can go to the gym. And I was like, oh, okay.
mm,
At least I get to go out, like I
mm,
was just stuck inside. And so over the summer, I hit it hard in the gym and I lost like 60 pounds.
mm,
Um, and then going into freshman year at Oak Forest, um, I remember at the Bengals game, at the football game, it was the best moment ever where, I walked up the bleachers and I saw some, old buddies from middle school and they didn't recognize me at all.
Hmm.
Like not one bit. They're like, "Oh shit, is that Pinto?"
Right.
Like I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And they're like, "No way." And it was a cool moment. And then after that, that's when I mean I lost the weight, but it was like just fat, it wasn't like I grew muscle.
Hmm.
And that's when I started P90X. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember it was really fast. Because like it went, like you said, from one year to another. It was just like you were like leaned out, and just like you said, I didn't recognize you either. And so, like for me, like one of the things that I struggled with was like, I guess you call it like body dysmorphia, right? Like where you struggle with, you think like you're bigger than you are.
For sure.
After losing all that weight, how did you handle that mentally? Were you like happier going forward, or was it like a thing of that you still battled with? Like, what happened after you lost that weight?
No, man, it was incredible. It's basically all the people that used to bully me,
Uh-huh.
used to give me crap, push me around, book drop me, whatever you want to think about. Like it happened to me, and after that, I never got bullied again. Never. Even like my dad kind of chilled out on like my weight, because
Mm-hmm.
like what else could you say?
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of maybe I did it in like the form to like just stop giving people like ammo. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone kind of just stopped, and it was really good. I had more confidence, more self-esteem. Um and it was crazy. Like chicks started to like, look at me.
Sure. Yeah.
I always used to be like when I was fat, when I was like big, I was just like the funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a few crushes here and there, and like it hurt because I didn't know how to talk to girls.
All right.
And after that, I kind of got the hang of it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely can see that. And I do want to go back in time a little bit because you mentioned your like your relationship with your dad changed. I'm curious to know more about that. Like, how was it growing up with your dad? Like, I know you said that you had issues with him. Like, was he in your life or did he get out of your life? What happened?
Well, it's interesting. He was in my life, but it felt like he wasn't.
How
You
so?
know, and well, so in my family, my parents are Mexican, so it was like a Mexican
Yes,
household.
sir.
And me growing up in Chicago was like, you know, American culture,
Mm,
but that was like outside. So at home, it was 100% Mexican culture. The only time it was like American culture was at school.
right.
And so I guess it started as like a young child. Uh, English was forbidden at our household.
Mm-hmm.
And I was young, I was a kid. I was like 5 years old, six, seven. And yeah, I used to get in trouble a lot because I have an older brother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and me and him would talk in English sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. At the time, maybe when my dad was stressed, he was working a lot. But he would be like kind of like the type where he would be like hiding, not hiding, but he would be kind of just waiting for that moment. If he hears us speak English, we would get in trouble, get a couple little,
Right.
here and
Right.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it was just tough because I felt like he was a hero for a while. He was like my hero, and then once things got a little tougher, and I got a little older, like it wasn't the same anymore. I felt like
Mm-hmm.
he was like the monster, and I didn't have a relationship with him. We didn't really talk growing up. Like we would go, for example, like on car rides, if we go to the store or something, it would just be silence, or it would be music playing on the
Mm-hmm.
radio.
So one
So
of the things that I guess like because at first I get what you're saying with he was a hero to you at first until like you perhaps maybe you got old enough to notice things more. You're like I don't think this is right, especially when you go to school. Like I went to school and I saw things that other parents did and like how they treated their kids when I had my friends over or when I interacted in their house. Like you kind of
Yeah,
start to see
yeah.
other how other parents treat their kids, and you're like, like that's something that. So I completely get where you're coming from there. Uh,
Mhm.
you're the first guest that we've had that also comes from a Mexican background. I'm also, from that background, but with us, we're I'm technically second generation Mexican American. So my mom was first generation. We grew up speaking English to her, so that was more normal. But my family was also very like, you have to speak Spanish well, or you're gonna get made fun of. Like that's pretty much guaranteed. It sounds a little more serious from your perspective, because it sounds like, were your parents are you first generation American, or were they?
My dad was born in Chicago,
Okay,
but he grew up in Mexico.
got it.
Yeah, so he was there basically like until he was like I think 16, 17, and then he moved to Chicago back over there. Um, so it was just like very heavy on that, like a lot of pride on like,
Hmm.
maybe he was thinking like I want my sons to speak Spanish. And
Hmm.
it's interesting because I have cousins that maybe they understand it really well, but they don't really speak it.
Right.
So it was really important. And looking at it now, like, yeah, I'm grateful, you know. I just think that there could have been other ways to enforce, like speaking Spanish, like,
Right.
there was like kind of like a tough love sort of thing. And it just I felt super lost, just like
Hmm.
not having my dad there, even though he was there.
Yeah.
It was just a weird feeling for a long time.
You mentioned identity, which is a big thing, especially like around high school, because everybody's trying to figure out like who they are, who do they want to be.
For
For
sure.
you, right? Like, I also didn't really have like a father figure in my life, so that's something that I share.
Okay.
Even though you didn't, you did have your father present. It's one thing for them to be present; it's another thing to be active in your life.
Yeah.
And so, how did that? Do you think that affected you in any way, in like not having that relationship with your dad, and how did you deal with that?
Oh man, 100%. It was I mean, it was just a weird feeling all the time. And um man, I didn't really feel like I had a home, even though like it's the place where I grew up. I didn't like a lot of times I didn't feel welcome.
Mm,
Like that's why it got to a point where kind of like around high school, I kind of just started trying to go out more,
mm-hmm,
because if I was at home, I was either getting yelled at or getting punished, getting grounded, phone taken away, TV, games getting broken, whatever you want. Like,
mm-hmm,
so it was like me trying, I guess my way of coping was like just not being at home, not being
mm-hmm,
at the house where I grew up. And yeah, just I started living like you could say like living on the streets. Like that's where I was at.
right.
I never wanted to be home. I just wanted to go out and just not think about my house, not think about how it is back at home. And I would just like distract myself.
Hmm. And how did your mom deal with that? Did she take notice of that? And if not, what do you think caused you guys to get closer in time?
Um, my mom's a really strong woman.
Hmm.
Um, she always, has my back. But my dad's very, he's like, I guess you could say machoistic,
Yeah,
machismo, but
machismo. Yeah.
uh-huh. And so, my mom's a strong woman, so like a lot of times, she'll stick up for me, but there's a few times where just it's better to just, like not cause more of a ruckus and just let it be. And yeah, I had something with my dad too that back in the day, like his way of like I guess disciplining me was like locking me in the bathroom
Mm.
for a bunch of years, and I wasn't cool with that. And my mom didn't know for a long time, and I think I told her like around high school, and she was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Like she saw it a couple times, but she didn't know like how often it was. Like
Mm. Hmm.
it was pretty often. And my dad would say like, I don't know, it's just kind of like, "Don't tell your mom because or else," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But but yeah, it was just bad the whole time. I moved out of my house when I was 17.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like one of the very few people in high school that I had my own place and stuff, and it wasn't by choice. It was literally because I was such in such a dark place in my life, like super down, depressed, thinking all these terrible thoughts,
Hmm.
and my mom was just kind of like, maybe I think she was scared. She was scared maybe I was gonna do something,
Yeah.
and she helped me out, and I was able to get away from that environment.
How did that go? What can you take me back if you don't mind? Taking me back to that scene. Like, how did that play out?
Just a quick backstory, I guess. So yeah, high school is like 14 to 18.
Hmm.
Uh, my dad, I think it was when I was like 16. I think it was like when I was 15. My dad started getting like some seizures. He has like epilepsy, or he had it, and like now it's he doesn't have like seizures or nothing. He takes medication, but during that time, uh, he was like feeling more ill here and there,
Hmm.
and I think it was when I was 15. They found a tumor in his pancreas, and it wasn't cancerous, but it was like a big deal. So they had to remove like 75% of his pancreas.
Oh, wow.
Um, and he had like five different surgeries. He had to do like I think a triple bypass surgery or something. And this man almost died. Like he was on a ventilator over there, and I forgot the nursing home, or I forgot what it's called, but it's on 147th and like 147th, like 143rd and Cicero over there, kind of
Mm-hmm.
by Simply Slices.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I can't remember that name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. It was the weirdest thing because just because of like my childhood and stuff, like
Mm.
part of me was like, you should care, but I didn't care. I didn't visit
Mm.
him.
Mm.
Like I was still super angry with him, even though this man was uh, like on the edge of death, literally like on the brink of dying. It was just a weird feeling for me, and I had to go to therapy. And yeah, man, during that time, since he was like sick and everything, um, it was like part of his union or whatever. They were giving me like $1,000 a month
Mm.
as a beneficiary, and I was just such in like a weird place. Like I felt, I guess, like I felt just super guilty. Like how can I not care about my father, like literally dying, passing away? And I started taking like a bunch of pills. Started taking a bunch of Xanax. Like I had a lot of money for a kid. I think it was like 16 when I started getting those
Mm.
$1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I got it for like a whole year, and I would just binge. I would just binge on alcohol and a bunch of different drugs. But Xanax was my kryptonite. That was like my choice of drug, and it was really bad. Um, Even afterwards, like when after all the surgeries, I think it was when I was 17. Um, Even after all of that, he came back home. He was recuperating, but I was still like in all of that, and me trying to think that maybe he'll be a little bit more. I don't know, like a better attitude, like, oh, you got another chance, things like that. Like for me, he just got worse. For
Mm.
me, like in the way that he was treating me, it didn't feel like a second chance. It felt like he was just continuing how he's always been.
Mm.
And yeah, I ended up snorting like I used to rail him. I used to snort these yellow bars, school buses. um, I think I snorted like three or four, and I ended up crashing into the light post and the Oak Forest McDonald's. If you
Mm,
notice in the entrance of
I
the
did.
house, it's different than all the other ones. That was me.
Oh wow, I never noticed because was it. Did it close down after that? Was that the one that happened, or did it just?
Um, I don't think it closed. No, it was the one where Food for Less used to be on
Yeah,
159.
yeah. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, I saw that they remodeled it. I thought it because it got closed down at one point.
They might have remodeled it like on the inside or something. Like I didn't crash into
Ah,
the building or nothing.
okay. I
It was
thought it
just
was
the
that.
light post, like where the entrance is.
I
Like
see. Okay.
yeah, it looks different than all the other ones. Is
Hmm.
because man, I crashed my dad's van and he was super pissed and I think around there that's when like he kicked me out. I had to go couch surfing with some buddies and then and then that's when I was like at my lowest. I was like, I hate life. I hate everything. Like this makes no sense. And that's when I moved out.
Wow. Sorry that you went through that first. But what did that time teach you? What was the lesson on that you think for that time in your life?
Uh, um, the lesson would be don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. There's other healthier ways to distract yourself, I guess. And I think something that helped me a lot was talking to somebody.
Mm,
That's during that time. That's when my mom took me to this therapist in Tinley, and it took a while because like I didn't want to talk about nothing. Like I felt guilty for even talking bad about my dad. Like telling other people how I felt. Like I felt guilty because like how like I should be grateful or something. Like I don't know. I just felt like am I in the wrong or am I in the right to be feeling this way? And
right.
when I went to therapy, I forgot her name, but this lady was amazing, and she basically told me like what I'm feeling is validated, even though he was in the hospital and all that. I didn't visit him. Like she made me feel like it was okay.
Mm,
Like it's not like I'm a terrible person. It's just how I felt,
mm-hmm.
and I was just like kind of accepting those feelings, but then also trying to figure out how you can be positive and how you can have better feelings, when those feelings that are like negative or like when I started to get sad or something, like one of her tips was like, all right, well, what makes you happy?
Mm,
Because I was just so down and I was like, you know what? Like the only time where I like smile or something is when I watch The Office on Netflix.
mm.
And
It's a
she
good show.
told me, you know what? Yeah, it's amazing. I've watched it like 9 times.
It's
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 like my
it's yeah.
Yeah, it's like my therapeutic go-to. But yeah, she told me like if that's what makes you happy, if that's what puts a smile on your face for a day, for an hour, for 20 minutes, watch it whenever you feel down, watch an episode and like the bigger picture is like, yeah, whenever you're down, try to find something that brings you joy and that way you can shift your mood, like even like a song. Like songs are very powerful. You can put a song on, it can make you feel sad instantly. Or you put on like a happy vibe, like you're gonna feel that. So
Yeah.
I learned that, yeah.
So to fast forward a little bit, uh, how long were you in therapy?
Probably like I don't know, like 4 or 5 months. It wasn't too long
Mhm.
because I ended up going to Michigan for college.
Mm.
Um,
And how do
yeah.
you think after so like you were well sorry you were couch surfing, there you go, you were couch surfing for how long exactly?
It was during the winter. Um, I think it was like maybe maybe like a month. It wasn't too long,
Okay.
but my mom felt like helpless, like what's she gonna do? She can't tell my dad nothing because my dad's like he rules everything. It's his house, blah blah blah. That's just how he was, and so I would go with a few friends here and there, stay for like a couple days, maybe a week. Then I'd go to another aunt's house, and then maybe like a few days, couple weeks, and then another aunt, and then I went with my brother. So yeah, it was just weird. I don't recommend it.
No, it doesn't sound fun. And where did you end up coming back to the house, to your parents' house for an extended period of time, or was that it? Were you just after that on your own?
That was it. I've been on my own for, I mean, I'm about to turn 28, so it's about like a decade, 10 years. I mean, since then, uh, the relationship with my dad has been a lot better. Um, when I was 20, I decided that I wanted to be like the bigger man. So on Thanksgiving, I wrote him a very lengthy letter about how I felt. And yeah, ever since then, I go and visit a little bit here and there, maybe for a few weeks.
Hmm.
But I haven't lived in that house since I was 17.
How do you feel about your dad now?
Very great. Honestly, it's if you would have asked me a while ago, I would have been like, "There's no way." But now it's completely 180. We talk, um, not like super often, but we talk maybe a couple times a month.
Hmm.
Um, Man, it's beautiful. Honestly, it's beautiful. Like I feel like when I hit 20, I think it was like 20 years old. Uh, that was like the start of our relationship. That's when I actually talked to my dad, not by force, not because I was forced to, because he lived in the same house, but like because I wanted to.
How
Yeah.
did he receive that? Like, do you think that he was hesitant to have a relationship with you once you were an adult, or was it something that like he was more open to?
Uh, he was definitely hesitant. I mean, essentially, it's from 17. Uh, let's put it like I didn't go to college for like another year and a half or something, so
Hmm.
I was still there in Illinois, and we would go to like family parties, and this man would not even look at me.
Mm.
Like it was like that. Like he just pretended. My dad pretended I wasn't there,
Mm.
and I mean I did the same, and it was just weird. Some of my uncles and aunts would like ask me like what's going on, and like I just didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
And then yeah, like around 20 years old, I just felt like it makes no sense to keep doing that. My mom was kind of like the one suffering a little bit just because her thing, she's really big on family,
Mm.
and it broke her heart when like we're all at the same party, but we don't talk. It's just terrible. And so he he accepted like like I apologized to him for everything I did. Um, I wasn't the best son, maybe, but a lot of it for me was like I felt like I did all those things. Go out, party, like take a bunch of drugs. I've taken more drugs than I have fingers and toes.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it was just he was super upset with me too because like how can I have a son that does this and that and goes out and breaks things and like um so it took a while and like I was very genuine about like I am sorry and the whole point was like the whole point is that we can't change the past, but the only thing we can try to do is like make today better and hopefully in the future like we can have like a father son relationship.
Hmm.
And that was the only thing that I was looking forward to is like oh well, all that shit happened and I definitely would have done it differently. I definitely would have been. I feel like if I had a father in my life like a little bit normal, and I mean no one's life is normal, right? But
Right.
I feel like I feel like I wouldn't have done so many things in the opposite direction.
I also think that it's fair to say that, like as hard as it is to not have your dad in your life, I think that a lot of times it's in like what you do in the exterior is an expression of what you feel on the inside, but you don't know how to talk about it or say it. So you kind of just you put it out in the world rather than because you don't know how to communicate it. You're not, at least for my family, Like I don't know how to. I didn't learn how to communicate emotions. Why? Because my family struggles to do that, and so a lot of times like being rebellious and doing all that is like a sign of hurt. Of like that's your pay attention to me. I don't have your
For sure.
attention. Pay attention to me. So you know, as I'm glad that you had that conversation, but it's also I'm glad that you're aware that that's not also like that's what you knew. You do with what you know, and
Mhm.
and just like I'm sure as difficult as it is with what your dad did, I learned too from my family. It's that that's they did what they knew, and
Mhm.
as long as you can accept that, right? Like as long as you can accept that and say, hey, I want to do better than that, then it's possible. So you can work on it. And so with your dad, you're I'm assuming now it's a lot better. Just how you mentioned, like the relationship's a lot better. How did it
Mhm.
go for you when you went off to college? How was that? Was it any different than what you expected? Was it more stressful? How was it?
Shit. Well, at that time, that was like before we made up.
Uh huh.
So he wasn't really involved when I was in college, but I mean, same, kind of the same thing, man. I went to Western Michigan University,
Mm.
WMU, and rowed the boat. And I went there with the mentality that I was gonna do better, this, and that. And for some reason, I kind of just brought some of my old habits back over there.
Mm.
And I mean, I used to party a lot in high school, like 17, 18, had my own crib. And it wasn't because yeah, it was cool, it was fun at the time, but it was more like that, like, like I didn't know how to express myself. So I was like, distractions and this and that. And then when I got to college, it was kind of the same thing. I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Mm.
I joined a fraternity,
Mm.
which I wasn't there for too long, but school was going all right. Um, Everything was cool, and then all of a sudden, I lost my finger. Um,
How?
um, well, let's just say that I lost so it was one of my buddies' uh birthdays, and we ended up pre-gaming at this house down the street.
Mm.
We left our stuff there, and it was January, so it was snowing outside. But it was right down the street, so like, we'll just leave our stuff here because sometimes it's tough when you bring like your jackets and stuff. And so we went to the party. My buddy, he got super, super wasted, and it was pretty funny. It's kind of messed up.
Mm.
We were all dancing on the dance floor. They had like the DJ and everything. And it gets crazy over there in Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
It gets crazy. And so like the whole block had a bunch of parties. We got to this place, and then there was a DJ, and they were all dancing and stuff.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, like this man was taking so many shots and shots and shots. All of a sudden, he starts like making out with this girl's like lower back area.
Mm.
It was very weird, and
Mm.
like everyone started looking, and so I was like, "Oh shit, I gotta help." I was
Mm.
like, "Oh my bad, I'm gonna take him home. Sorry about that." And the girl was like all like weirded out. And I was like, "Damn, we gotta go." So I told everybody like, "Let's go, let's go." Everyone we came with. So we went back to the house, and yeah, we went back inside. We were just waiting on the Uber, and so once the Uber got there, I had to carry him because he was like knocked out, lights out. So I had to
Mm.
carry him from upstairs, and I carried him all the way downstairs. I put him in the car, and everyone else like came outside to like help. And then I think we were about to like keep going. Like all right, he's taken care of. We're gonna go back out, and then I ended up going back upstairs so I could grab my jacket. I had my wallet in there, uh, and it was like $200 or whatever. It's not a lot, but at that time, like in college, like that was a lot for me.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Still kind
Uh,
of is.
yeah, yeah. And so I was like knocking on the door, and I hear the lock.
Mm.
So it was this dude that he ended up passing away, but it was this dude. basically he was trying to like steal my wallet. I was trying to keep my jacket and everything, and I was like,
Mm.
I was not having it. So I was like, banging on the door, yo, open up, blah blah blah. And he turned off the light, and he's like, go home or something. And I was like, what? This is not about to happen. And so I went downstairs, and there's a balcony on the second floor.
Mhm.
So I start climbing the first floor balcony. Okay, I got up, cool. Then I started climbing the second floor balcony, and then since it was snowing outside, the railing is like made of metal. Uh,
Oh no.
I ended up like almost getting to like the
Oh.
ledge, and I grabbed it, and all of a sudden I slid down super fast, and I let go, and I ended up sliding into the first floor balcony, which was good because I could have went back and hit my head or something. So
Mhm.
thank God for that. But I ended up going into the first floor balcony, and I was like, "Damn, am I okay?" I started checking myself, make sure I got no holes or nothing. And then I like looked at my finger. I saw my hand, and
Mhm.
I saw a bone sticking out, and I was like, I looked away, and I looked back. I was like, no, no way. And I didn't feel it because it was like super fast. I
Yeah.
was in shock, and it got stuck in the second floor balcony in between the metal railing and the
Mm.
cement. And I
Wow.
immediately called the ambulance. Uh, I I asked my buddy, I'm like, "Yo, can you look for my finger, dude, my pinky?" And he starts laughing hysterically. He's like, "What are you talking about, dude? Pinto, you crazy, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Bro, like, I'm talking to the
Mm.
ambulance. Look for my finger, please." And so I ended up losing like 3/4 of my finger,
Wow.
and yeah, that was a crazy crazy time. And during that time, just a quick side story.
Yeah.
Um, I was still like in the mindset that like I didn't care and I'm invincible, and I was like still taking drugs here and there. Um, and I had an Adderall in my pocket, and since I was going to the ambulance, my first instinct was it's gonna be a long night. I'm just gonna take the Adderall,
Mm.
and that was a terrible idea. Um, because they took me to the hospital and they tried to sedate me, uh, and I couldn't go under because of the Adderall. It was an extended release. And so it just gives you like a bunch of energy. And so yeah, they hit me twice with like a higher dose. I wasn't going under. And then they hit me the third time with like morphine, and I still wasn't going under. And they're like, "Are you sure you didn't take anything?" I was like, "No, no." I was scared, and I was like, "No." And so they ended up telling me like, "We gotta proceed with surgery. You're losing blood." And so I got to see my surgery. Like the surgeons were like smiling because they're like, I asked them like, "What's so funny?" And they're like, "We've never had any patients conscience during their surgery."
Wow.
So they were like, they had to like shave it down. They had to remove some what is it called? Like some veins or something like that, and
Mhm.
then they had to flap it over, and then they sewed it up, and then I got to keep my finger. That was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a incident. How long did this all take? Like, cuz this sounds like this all happened in one night?
Yeah, yeah, it was that's when I was 19. It was actually on MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Oh wow.
Everyone went out because we had a Monday off.
Yeah.
We were celebrating and all that, and yeah, man, it was crazy. And then at that point, that's when I hit, I would say, like an equal rock bottom than how I was feeling before I went to college. I like went
Mhm.
back to that mindset where I was just like super down, didn't care about anything, and I let my studies go. Like I didn't finish college.
Yeah. Wow. And so okay, so what happens after, right? You get your finger sewn back, or what's left of it. What happened to the other piece of it? Like, what did they do? They just throw it away? Like, what happened?
No, they were gonna keep it. I was like, "Yo, can I get my finger back?" And they're like, "We usually just keep it." And I was like, "Nah, it's my property. I want it
Mm.
back."
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, all right, grab it. And so I put it in a bag and I had it in one of my brothers, like fraternity brothers. I had it in his freezer for like 3 months. And then it was a pretty cool party trick. Like when we had parties at the fraternity, like everyone would be like talking about me, and then I would like bring bring a couple people upstairs and just show them like the finger and everything. Uh, Um, and then so yeah, it was pretty cool, but not so cool at the same time. And then yeah, and then on Cinco de Mayo,
Mm-hmm.
um, I decided that I wanted to bury it. So I called it No Pinko de Mayo. It was my pinky. And we drank a bottle of tequila, and I buried it in the back of the fraternity, Phi Sigma Kappa.
Wow.
Yeah,
How was your life after that? You said you went kind of hit another rock bottom. What happened from what time frame was that, and how did that turn out?
man. Um, After that, it really did change my life around. I kind of saw it as like a light bulb or something, like kind of like God was telling me, like, look, this is a warning, you know, ponte las pilas,
Right.
like stop doing all this extra stuff, get it together.
Mm.
And I was still super down though. I was still like, I started gaining weight because I couldn't work out anymore, just because of all the pain and stuff. And it was crazy. I had a few friends that were kind of like, I guess you could say like hippie vibes, just good vibes. And this one friend, this chick, she had dreads and stuff. She would always be hula hooping and kind of like rave style where they have like the hula hoops that light up.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really cool. And I saw that like when she was practicing, she was sweating a lot. I was like, huh,
Mm-hmm.
let me try it. And I started trying it, and like it was kind of like a fitness thing. And then I mean, it was crazy. I took 2 tabs of acid, LSD,
Mm-hmm.
and the first tab I took it in the morning. I waited like 7 hours, and I took the next one. But basically, my goal was to learn how to hula hoop, and I had no intention of like anything more. I just wanted to practice. I just wanted to master something because I felt like hopeless, useless.
Mm-hmm.
Like school was going bad, and for some reason, I just had the urge to like let me try this. I'm just gonna focus on it. And it was crazy, man. The whole entire day I ended up I was just hula hooping for I think it was like 12 hours nonstop. Like I think I
Wow.
ate uh, ramen and I went to the bathroom once, but I legitimately didn't stop. I was just sweating profusely. I had like music playing. Um, and during that time, man, like the way that I was looking at like the hula hoop is like I was looking at life. Like I had a whole life epiphany. Um, it was like a psychedelic experience. I don't recommend it for everybody, but for me in that state of mind where I was just super down, it helped kind of look at it in a different perspective about life, about how like, we're capable of doing anything if we put our mind to it, if we put our focus to it. And and yeah, I ended up getting pretty good at hula hooping in one day. I I got really good and I felt so much better afterwards. I was like, you know what? It's possible. Like I found like hope.
Mm.
Like I lost it completely, like again for the second time. And I found it, and it just sounds weird because like you're hooping, you're hula hooping, but like it was just more the act of trying something, practicing it, and then feeling the accomplishment of actually like learning and being able to do it.
I think the important piece is that like after not being able to do something that gave you some sort of happiness, right? Like working out, not being able to do it, and then finding that you could again. I think like that's where that epiphany happened, right? It's just like, oh, I can, right?
Mhm, mhm.
It's just like if you find a way, you'll figure out a way to do it. It's just you'll have to do it differently, but you can do it, right?
It was a good workout. I was
No,
sweating a
for
lot.
12 hours, I think that's
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
yeah, it was crazy.
Oh
It was
wow.
crazy.
So okay, so that happened, and what led to you? Let's say, for example, let's take us to present day.
Mm.
How did you get to Mexico? What ended up happening there?
So after all of that in college, um, basically I ended up transferring over to community college because they had a culinary program opening up, and I was super into cooking.
I
And
love cooking, man. Food is such
yeah,
a great way into people's hearts, man. Like you can learn a lot about somebody from just from what they eat.
yeah, yeah, you gotta see their sazon.
That's
Over
right.
here. Yeah. Um, yeah, so I started doing that, super happy, and actually it was really cool because it was the first year of the program,
Mm,
and so we were like the first people. And part of the culinary program, it was a degree for food sustainability.
mm.
Um, it was to learn where the food comes from, and so we had fall grow practicum. I forgot what it's called, but basically it's like for one of the classes you learn how to grow vegetables and fruit, things like that. And yeah, we were they had a new greenhouse. It was like 180 feet by 200 feet or something. It was pretty big.
Mm.
And so we were able to set it all up. We had all the trays, we had to put up all the lights. It was like a hybrid greenhouse. So they had lights, but they also had like, like the windows, like the window panel, like see through for the sunlight.
Right. I think they call those. Oh man, no, I forgot. That's terrible. I forgot the name of those. They have a specific name, Sun something.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, I used to know because like I worked in roofing for a little bit. So
Ah,
it's kind of a shame that I can't remember. but,
ah, you
but
good.
yeah, go for it because I can't remember the name of those now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I found this like new passion of growing.
Mm,
Just like looking at, kale or lettuce, like and we used to grow a lot of microgreens too. And like the microgreens grow super fast.
mhm,
And so you gotta water it all the time. You gotta, harvest it. You gotta package it. So that was like really cool for me. I had a little trouble with like some Craigslist, because I was renting from Craigslist,
mhm.
and I ended up not getting my security deposit back when I left.
Oh.
And so all in all, I ended up trying to think, okay, like what do I want to do? Do I really want to become a chef? And during that time when I lost my finger, uh, I ended up getting my medical marijuana card in Michigan
Mhm,
because at that time it was like not everywhere had it. It was like still kind of new, legalizing it, recreation, all that.
mhm,
So I got my card. I would go on Instagram a lot. I would see like a bunch of like it was a booming business, it's like the
mhm.
green rush, like the gold rush.
Right.
So so yeah, I decided I wanted to move to Cali and see if I can find something. And I ended up hitting up this company on Instagram, and they're like, "Well, we don't know. You're not out here yet, so if you ever do come out here, maybe we'll get you an interview." And I was like, "Say less, I'm down."
Mhm,
So I saved up for a few months, and I went out there. Drove all the way out there with my car like 100% packed. Um, like literally, I couldn't see, like outside. I couldn't see on the right. Like it was like packed to the full, to the top. And so got to Cali. Um, Finally got the interview after like a couple weeks. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you actually got out here." I was like, "Yeah, I'm
yeah.
down, I'm down." And so like I just decided like, maybe I can do something else. Like maybe college isn't for me. And I worked for a bit, and then after about like a year, me and a couple coworkers we decided to start our own company in the cannabis industry.
Mm,
And so it went really well. Unfortunately, we partnered up with this dispensary that was kind of shady.
mhm.
Um, they weren't trying to do everything proper, even though like that's the whole point. I went to California was to do everything by the book legally,
Right.
like have my money right in the bank, you know. Um, and then so it was cool. Was there for a year and a half. We did really well. So we did 3.5 million in sales in a couple years,
Wow.
a year and a half. So it was great. It went well. It's just I didn't see that it was gonna be like a long term thing.
Hmm.
I felt like they were just trying to like take advantage of us. Um, so I ended up leaving, and it was like when the pandemic started too.
Hmm.
So I started looking for remote opportunities. Um, learn how to do some coding, Python, um, a little bit of JavaScript, doing some web design, and then it was tough. I couldn't find no jobs at all,
Hmm.
um, just because everything required like a college degree.
Hmm.
And so like you know what, I might as well like I don't know what am I gonna do. So I ended up talking to one of my cousins, and he has like a SEO company, web design. So I started helping him out, and then I was Ubering at the time, and basically he told like I told him for a while like I was kind of doing it pro bono, um, just because like we were gonna work together on some things,
Hmm.
and then he was like, "Yo," because I told him like, "Look, I can't really do this anymore." Like when I asked for a buyout from the company that we started, that's what I was living on for all of for the pandemic.
Hmm.
And so I was kind of telling him like, "Look, I'm kind of like at my last like my funds are getting low, they're running low." And so I told him like, "Look, I'm probably gonna have to find a part-time job, but I'll still, try to make this happen." We were building an app. And then he was like, "Nah, you know what?" He told like he wanted me to try to, work a little more. So he told me just come out to here to Mexico. He's from Puerto Vallarta,
Hmm.
and he told me he was like, I can get you settled up there. Like, we gotta pay rent, just so that way we can try to make these ideas happen, these projects.
Hmm.
That's how I got out here. Just basically working remote, and the goal was to make dollars and spend in pesos, but it took me a while. It took me a while. I don't work with them anymore. But finally, a couple months ago, it's finally happening. So I'm I'm super stoked and I'm blessed and I'm just grateful.
Yeah, no, that's I'm glad that things are going well for you. Um, I guess one of the things that I do want to kind of mesh is how your life currently kind of brought us together too, how our lives intersect, right? Because it's funny that you mentioned that you got into coding and into app building.
Mm.
Because funnily enough, with Jay Frodinger, we're
Oh,
also in that process, right? And
yeah.
so it's cool to have somebody else who knows about that.
Mhm.
As So far, like that's something that we're trying to build as well, a new app, but also
Mhm.
with the podcast too, right? And
Yeah, I love
so
it.
like it's one thing I always say, and I don't say it like while we're recording always, but once you're part of this podcast, this isn't like a one-time deal, right? Like the goal is here is long term, is we want to see, we would like to keep track of how life goes for you in the ups and the downs, and to like tell the true story of that. Like it's not always sunshine and rainbows, and what do we do when we're not in that, when we're in those hard times? And I think
Mhm.
like one of the things that's difficult is that there aren't a lot of people talking about it, the bad times, right? It's very easy to see the good times, be like, man, like
Oh,
on social media, like this person's always traveling, this person's always looks like they're happy and all that, but life isn't just that. It's in fact, I think the lows are some of the best lessons I've learned is in my lowest times, is
oh yeah.
and so it's definitely something that I would love to have you a part of in long term, not just if nothing else, for
Mhm.
the podcast, to have you on for normal check-ins to see how you're doing, and hopefully we can have you as a partner in the future as well. Um,
Yeah.
but I really appreciate your time. We are coming up close to the end of our hour. But before we do end that, I do have a few questions I ask every guest. So I just want to start with, what is it that you did talk a little bit about, but what can people do to support you right now? What do you have going on where people can follow you, can lend their support in what you're doing?
Well, I've always had a passion for music. Actually, Jake over there,
Mm-hmm.
we were in choir together, and at that time, I wasn't really like I loved singing, but I was in a stage where I was like trying to be the cool guy, and so I ended up dropping out in freshman year. But
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a passion for music, and now I finally got the guts to say like I don't care what people think. You know, some people might like it, some people might not. But finally, I have some time with my new remote work. I'm doing music now. I'm finally doing a little bit of rap, a little freestyle, a little bit of singing. I want to do some music in Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some ranchero, maybe some reggaeton,
Yeah.
everything, everything. Like I don't like to be just one thing. I like to do everything, try everything. Uh, I like playing piano. I'm learning guitar again. So yeah, right now I got a SoundCloud going, just trying to feel it out. It's Pinto Flow, um, and then it's the same thing on Instagram, TikTok, and then hopefully, like in the near future, maybe once I get some more people like listening, I'm gonna open up my Spotify.
Love it. And if let me put it to you this way. What do you know your purpose in life? And if you don't, what do you think it is?
I think I do know my purpose. I think I do. Um, I think my purpose in life is to help other people because for me, I felt super alone during my worst times, and it just I know how it feels, and it doesn't feel good. It feels terrible. I think my purpose is to try to help other people that are going through tough times. Maybe they feel like they don't have someone to talk to, or they think no one understands. And I might not understand on every aspect. You know, everyone has a different story, but I do want to be able to help other people. Um, you know, if they're going through depression or if they have addiction, um, just help them out and tell them like it's okay that you're going through that now. You know, like don't be ashamed of it, but at the end of the day, is to be hopeful. You know, like hope is like such a powerful thing, and a lot of people lose hope, and when you lose hope, you just don't care. And so I want to be able to bring other people hope, um, and to let them know like you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I want. I think that's what my purpose is, whether it's like through speaking, whether it's through music, whether it's through cooking. Um, that's what I want to do. I want to give other people hope.
I love that. And final question for you. If you could talk to your childhood self, what would you say?
Man, if I could talk to my childhood self, um, I would say I would say it's gonna get better. I would say no one's childhood is great, you know? Like a lot of some people might have a really great childhood, and that's awesome, but it's also normal to not have it. So I would tell my younger self, my childhood self, like just wait a little bit and watch how things get better. You know, it might not be tomorrow or in a year, but you know, the average life is like what, like 60 years or maybe 70.
Mhm.
Um, you know, our childhood is such a small part. It's important, but we have so much time left to get better and to be better and to just keep going. Yeah.
Thanks again for jumping on. I really appreciate you making time all the way from Mexico. And I know this isn't the last time we're going to work together. So I really appreciate
Really?
you coming on and telling your story. And we're going to hear from you again.